I have always found noir, mystery, and thriller investigation movies and series to be engaging in a unique way. The way the story is presented piece by piece, leaving clues here and there so that the audience can construct the answer to the mystery in their heads, is an enjoyable and engaging experience. When it comes to video games, a genre like this would be ideal because of the interactive aspect of video games. However, constructing a gameplay experience where players feel like detectives and immersed and engaged in the story and the moment-to-moment mystery is a hard thing to pull off, and I am glad to say that the game that I am reviewing today managed to pull it off exceptionally well. Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy, and this is my review for Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View for the PC. Thanks to developer White Paper Games and publisher Sold Out for the review code. Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View is an indie adventure game that follows the story of the disappearance of 8-year-old girl called Charlotte May. You play as Robert Conway, a retired detective that lives at Dahlia View, who decides to investigate the matter and find out what happened to the missing girl. His main suspects? The neighbors of Dahlia View, who seem to be hiding something. The story of Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View is presented in the same way a mystery thriller movie would. Since the very opening moments of the game, you get this feeling like you're watching a mystery thriller movie because of how well the scenes are constructed, integrating visuals and music in a way that immerses you in what is happening. The game is set in 1954 England, and it does a really good job of making you feel like you are in another time. Little details help in this regard. For example, there's one moment in the game where you are examining your neighbor's calendar, and in it you can see that she marked June 6, 1954, and it says the Lord of the Rings book comes out. Other details come from comments the characters do, their clothing, and other elements within the game, truly transmitting to the player the historical moment in which this game takes place. The voice acting in this game really shines through. Every character comes to life with some incredible voice acting that truly transmits the subtleties of emotion in every line. The voice acting takes the game's story to a higher level, making it even more immersive.
Hello, Mr. Conway.
Good evening.
Terrible what's happened, isn't it?
So you know what happened?
They're looking for a kidnapper. A search is about to start in the Pine Woods.
My sister, Shirley, she owns the pub across the way. The searchers are all meeting there first.
What do you know about the kidnapping, Mr. Conway?
Not much. That's why I'm talking to the pair of you.
You should talk to the old busybody over in her big manor house.
Mrs. Doer.
She knows everything that goes on here. I wouldn't be surprised if she saw the kidnapper.
I wouldn't be surprised if she was the kidnapper.
That's an awful thing to say.
Well, have you seen her? Always fawning over that little girl. All alone in that big house. Plenty of room to hide someone.
One thing that I found very interesting is that the main character, Conway, is bound to a wheelchair. This plays a key role in how to move your character and how Conway interacts with the world and the people around him. The game really manages to transmit to the player that even though you are investigating, you are not an active detective, meaning that you will have to proceed in a very careful way because from the perspective of other characters, you are just gathering information, trying to understand what happened on the night of the abduction, and invading their privacy. In this way, your investigation feels different from what you would do if the character was an active detective assigned to the case, and this difference gives the game a very particular feel. Additionally, the game does a good job of making you feel Conway's vulnerability and his imperfections. He spends the entire game finding out the neighbor's secrets and flaws, and in the process, you as a player are watching Conway's flaws come to light. Regarding the pacing of the game, Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View has a very slow pacing that I think it's a necessity because of the type of story they are telling. You can't have a fast-paced game when you are trying to build mystery and intrigue. In that sense, the story layers are peeled in a very slow way. One final thing I must point out regarding the story is that the final part of the game proved to be underwhelming. Without going into spoilers, I found the reveal and final confrontation with the culprit to be too short. I feel like it needed to be more elaborate and more gameplay time should have been dedicated to that final part of the game. So let's talk about the specs for this game. I played this game on medium settings, 1080p resolution, on a laptop with a GPU GTX 1650, 16 gigs of RAM, and a i5 9400 CPU processor, and the game ran at 60 frames per second for most of the time. On some occasions, the game seemed to drop frames to low 50s. Obviously, the better your hardware, the better the game will run. In terms of glitches, I did find some strange glitches towards the later half of the game, but it was nothing game-breaking. So let's talk about the graphics. All around, this game's graphics look very good. Textures, shadows, and assets are well designed and can be appreciated from up close when you interact with them. The character models feature a particular art style that mixes realism with a little bit of cartoony, giving the characters a unique look that allows the game to look serious without looking hyper-realistic. The game looks almost like a novel or a comic book. One detail that stood out to me and that I found visually interesting is that there are scenes where we get close-ups with the characters, and the background blurs out and you can see the outlines almost as if it was drawn. Details like these are pleasing and a nice touch overall. Despite the characters' facial animations sometimes looking stiff, they still get the job done. The animations manage to transmit the emotion and the body language of the character in a way that the player can understand and appreciate. In what regards to the music and sound design of this game, I have to say that it is excellent. The game has moments where there is only ambient sounds and key moments where the music comes in to accentuate what is happening in that scene. The music gives this game a mystery thriller vibe in a way that makes you feel as if you were watching a series or a movie.
Now, Annabelle has seen something just out of my view. Whatever it is, she's horrified by it. What on earth is it?
The ambient noises that you hear at the distance give life to Dahlia View and makes it feel like a real place where actual things are happening at the distance. So let's get into the gameplay. As I said before, Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View is an adventure game that in a lot of ways feels like a modern version of a point-and-click adventure game. You move your character with 10 controls, meaning that left or right, or A and D on a keyboard, are used to set the direction in which your character will move, and forward or backwards, or W or S on a keyboard, are used to move forward or backwards respectively. The game also features a mix of fixed camera angles and dynamic camera movement, meaning that sometimes the camera angles are fixed on certain points and you transition between certain scenes, and at other times the camera follows the main character in a particular way. The fixed camera angles are used in a very cinematic way during certain moments in the game that really contribute to the storytelling. You are expected to explore your environment, interact, and inspect items. The game can be divided into specific gameplay segments that form the gameplay loop. The first type of gameplay segment is watching your neighbors of Dahlia View with your camera from a window in your apartment. In these segments of the game, you can look around the Dahlia View and certain scenes will start to play out as you focus the camera lens in different areas. You will have to take pictures as evidence of what is happening, and Conway will be commenting and speculating while you do this. Another segment of gameplay are exploring the neighbors' homes. Conway will visit his neighbors and will get into situations where he will be able to explore the neighbors' homes in search of clues. These segments are almost like a mini sandbox section. The game allows you to explore freely in that environment, finding key items and documents that will give you clues as to what is happening in that neighbor's life and how that could relate to the abduction that took place. These segments will feature puzzles that will require you to find either the right item or the right information to unlock more things and progress forward. As you progress through the game, the puzzles get more challenging, but never to the point of frustration. At certain times, you may enter rooms where the game won't allow you to leave until you find the key item that is in there, making sure that the player doesn't miss important items and information that are key to the story. A third gameplay segment is the conversations or interviews with your neighbors. There aren't branching conversation paths, and there aren't too many options to choose from. Instead, the main character asks the neighbor in relation to a certain aspect of their lives, and as Conway listens to the neighbor's answers, he marks key words in his mind. You can later ask a follow-up question by choosing one of those keywords. However, that is as far as it goes. It is important to say that exploring the neighbor's home and talking to them is not timed, meaning that the game waits until you complete what you're doing or you choose your follow-up question. However, sometimes the game will throw moments where you will have a very limited amount of time to decide what action to take or question to ask. This threw me off guard quite a few times because it comes suddenly without a heads up and contrasts with the way the rest of the gameplay flows. The fourth gameplay segment is the bulletin board. After taking pictures through the window, gathering evidence at your neighbor's house, and talking to them, Conway goes to a bulletin board in his apartment where he lays out everything he has gathered. Here, the player needs to link the different clues together to elaborate specific theories as to what's happening. This section can be quite challenging at times because of how many elements you can choose from, especially late in the game. Out of these 4 different gameplay segments, the ones that I enjoyed the most were exploring your neighbor's home and the bulletin board because of how fun and interesting they were. So let's talk about the cons and pros of this game. In what regards to certain aspects of the game that I felt took away from the experience, I would have to first mention the conversation segments with the neighbors. I wish the conversations had more mechanics and branching dialogues. I can understand that the conversation mechanics were kept basic because you are not conducting a formal investigation, but I still feel like it could have been elaborated more to give the player more options in how to participate in those conversations. Another thing that I felt took a little bit away from the game were the clunky controls and slow movement. The game controls and character movement felt clunky due to the mix of fixed and dynamic camera angles and tank controls. Additionally, Conway's movement speed is very slow, and when you have to move back and forth exploring a specific area, it can get very tedious. I feel like this could have been executed in a better way. Finally, the final part of the game, where the culprit is revealed and confronted, was way too short. I feel like the gameplay in that last section should have been elaborated more. In what regards to the strong points of this game, the things that stood out the most to me, I would have to first mention the cinematic feel of the game. From the visuals, camera angles, the music, and the way the story is presented, the game has a cinematic feel that makes it stand out as an adventure mystery thriller game. A second thing that stood out to me is that the game really makes you feel like you're investigating. And to me, this is one of the biggest challenges in these type of games. Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View integrates different game mechanics that manage to achieve this in an excellent way. From beginning to end, you feel like you're investigating, but at the same time, you still feel like you are just one more neighbor at the Dahlia View and not a cop. And last but not least, the third thing that stood out to me the most was the incredible voice acting. The voice acting in this game is superb and makes every moment with this game an enjoyable and immersive one. So in conclusion, Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View is a well-crafted adventure, mystery, thriller investigation game that allows the player to feel like an investigator with the synergy of its different gameplay mechanics while interweaving these same mechanics with a story full of intrigue that keeps you engaged and immersed from beginning to end. Despite some of its flaws with controls in the final sections of the story, the game still manages to deliver a solid experience that anyone who loves this genre of games will enjoy. For this reason, I recommend this game. So that's gonna be my non-spoiler review for Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
I can feel it again. That drive, that first pull at the yarn. It's all on this evidence board. Suspects, victims, items found at the scene. I have everything. All that remains is to watch over my neighbors until one of them makes a mistake, and I can still give Catherine her space. If the whole town is searching the Pinewoods, someone needs to keep an eye over Dahlia View.
Hi everyone, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our content.